There was a time when this workshop was the solution to all my problems, and now I'm moving out. I've made around 200 videos right here in the last 4 years, and without this place, I would never have been able to accumulate over 36 million views on YouTube. That's because I've never had a garage at home to fall back on. When I started renting this workshop, I was living in a rented 1-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor, which made it kind of tricky to get bikes up there. But today, all that changes because I bought a garage and it came with a free house, which means I want to leave my workshop as soon as possible because over the last few months, things have taken a turn for the worse.
Thank you to Rebelhorn for keeping me protected on my rides and sponsoring this video.
Most motorcycle YouTube channels start in their garage at home, and then once the channel grows, they rent a workshop to film in. I'm doing things backwards. I'll explain why in a minute, but we actually viewed a couple of houses before choosing this one. But the reason that I liked this one so much was because the previous owner also liked bikes and cars, so he had already had the garage tiled, which makes it look so much better. However, the upper half didn't look this good when we viewed it because it didn't even have a ceiling and just had one single light that didn't do much.
Nevertheless, the first step was to take the existing shelving and cabinet off the walls, since I have no use for them. But obviously, that left a lot of holes in the brick walls. Next, if I wanted a ceiling, I'd need some brandering to attach it to. This was also a good time for some wiring for video lighting. I made sure to patch those holes before I started painting, which was a miserable job. And then the only person crazy enough to help me put up the ceiling panels was my father-in-law. And since this garage gets really hot and I'm going to be spending a lot of time in here, I figured some insulation would go a long way.
I'm making it sound quick and easy, but all of these jobs took a lot more time and a lot more effort than I expected. Probably because I had never done half of these jobs before. The ceiling alone was a 13-hour day of non-stop work, but I think it was worth it. I'm hoping that moving day is coming soon, so today I want to get a head start on cleaning things out, things that I can't take with me and probably shouldn't have kept in the first place. Most of those things are on the dirty side of the workshop. Like, I don't think we need this radiator from a speed triple that has a hole in it anymore. Or how about this swing arm from a 2018 CBR 1000 that has a little bit of damage to it. I thought maybe we could fix this hole and someone would give me lots of money for it. But strangely enough, that hasn't happened. So I think it's time to go. And obviously I haven't gotten rid of what is left of the frame from my speed triple. As you can see, the whole headstock is missing, but I have it just in case I find a spare headstock on Facebook Marketplace and we can get this welded back together. I guess the Triumph subframe is exactly the same. This is actually broken in 2 places. Now technically you could weld it up and reuse it. Oh, 3 places. Technically you could get it fixed, but I don't think anyone's going to buy it in any case. And I sure as hell am not going to get it fixed and advertise it. I've actually only been keeping this so that I have a place to keep these nice bolts. And this box is also a collection of damaged Triumph parts that I kept just in case there was like a bolt or a rubber grommet or something random that I needed, and it would be in here. But now the Triumph's done, I don't think I need any of this. One of the reasons I had been putting off stripping my wrecked KTM Super Duke was because I was convinced it would be easier to move it as a complete bike. But then it turned out with its exploded rear wheel that it was basically impossible just to move around my workshop, let alone load it in the back of a truck and bring it here. So that's why I decided to strip it into a million pieces, because I thought it would be easier to move that way.
And once again, the only person crazy enough to help me move my workshop and my Super Duke in a million pieces was my father-in-law. And this whole process would have been impossible without his help. But eventually, everything was in the new garage.
Except for my Triumph and R1. And yes, my R1 is for sale, but I currently still have it. I made a whole video about that on my second channel. And a lot of you guys thought that I was selling the R1 to pay for the Super Duke rebuild. But it's actually because my wife and I bought a house. And it turns out that houses cost more than Super Dukes. Who knew? Believe it or not, this is actually the tidiest it's been for the last few days. But now I need to figure out a suitable layout in here and find a home for everything so that I can finally bring my bikes across.
After a lot of playing around, I settled on a layout and got to work securing everything in place. My wife told me it looks like an asylum with all the white, and she's right. But personally, I love how clean it looks, and white makes it brighter for filming. It's also going to be a bit of a weird layout since it's both a studio and a garage. But eventually, I made enough room for the bikes.
Okay, so it's a pretty short, slow ride to the new house, and today is a really hot day, so the idea of wearing a big heavy jacket is really unappealing. So I'm gonna wear this instead.
It's a weird feeling knowing that this is the second last time I'll ever leave my workshop on a bike.
It looks just like a regular hoodie, but it comes with elbow and shoulder armor and can even accommodate a back protector. But all of that armor is easily removable so that it looks just like a regular hoodie. The concept is to have a jacket that you can wear on and off the bike.
As a result, it's only A-level safety rated, which makes it perfect for chilled city riding like I'm going to do now. The hood is also removable if you don't want it catching the wind. I don't even know how many bikes I've had in my workshop over the years. The cheapest one was probably my KLR 650, and the biggest one without a doubt was a BMW RT. And I'm proud to say that I had the world's biggest displacement mass-produced bike in there, the Triumph Rocket 3. So with the R1 home, all that was left was the Triumph, the third project bike I ever had in my workshop. My R1 turned from an abused track bike to my beloved street bike in there. I brought a wrecked CBR 1000 back to life. I did the same for my Triumph. However, the KTM may have started there, but it's going to get finished somewhere else. And just like that, my 2.5 bikes are under my very own roof. And having colorful bikes in here really brightens up the place.
This jacket is called the Slash jacket from Rebelhorn, and the main zipper here to close it actually has two positions. The regular position, like you're used to close it, and then it actually has a second option on the inside like this, that then leaves a perforated channel exposed here to let fresh air in while you ride. They're honestly great value for money and come in a bunch of different colors. So I'll link them down below so you can check that out, as well as all the other innovative gear Rebelhorn makes, from pants to gloves to jackets and even base layers. My parents' house where I grew up had 3 garages, and my dad and I always spent a ton of time in the garage with the bikes. So ever since I was a kid, I've always dreamed of having my own garage that was clean, well stocked with every tool you could imagine, and obviously gorgeous motorcycles. But in 2020, my parents decided to emigrate to the UK, and long story short, I ended up renting a 1-bedroom apartment with my girlfriend, and my poor 390 Duke had to sleep outside every night. It was a weird feeling going from my dad's garage, which had just about every tool you could imagine, to not even being able to adjust my own chain. This channel had also started to make just enough money to survive on, and I needed a place to work on bikes and to film videos. And since I couldn't afford to buy a house, the quickest solution would be to rent a workshop. And so we did. My cousin and I went in together on this place and we each got half of it. This side was mine and on the other side of this wall was his side. About a year ago, he left, so I got the whole thing, twice as much space. And to be honest, this place has treated me really well.
The piece of land where my workshop is located used to be where they made explosives for mining, and I mean decades ago. So there are these residential blocks where the workers used to live and offices around the perimeter that have been abandoned for decades and are now really fun to explore.
Every now and then, they even come here to film movies or TV shows because it's the perfect place to film horror movies.
And everyone here is really relaxed. Hence how I got to ride a supermoto around this place without anyone caring.
When we moved in here, the company right across from our unit made ice cream, so we used to get really cheap ice cream. These days, it's a company that makes tequila, but I'm yet to get cheap tequila. There's another guy way up there who makes the most beautiful and expensive chandeliers you've ever seen out of shards of old alcohol bottles. It sounds ridiculous, but they look amazing. I swear my next door neighbors over here used to be drug dealers because I could hear them bottling pills, and they were always really rude. So 2 years ago, the workshop was working perfectly. I had a place to keep my bikes, so I bought this, a 3-bedroom apartment, so that I had a place to live. It made a ton of sense at the time. It was close to my workshop. It was everything I needed from a house except for a garage, but we quickly realized that that was a mistake because it turns out our upstairs neighbor was the most disrespectful, inconsiderate, and stubborn individual I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. He made living here just about unbearable. It's the only time, and hopefully the last time, I'll ever consider hiring a hitman. Unfortunately, we couldn't just pack our bags and leave right away. If we sold it, we'd literally be wasting money. And after all, the long-term plan was to be able to rent this out. So we had to stick it out, work hard, and save up a down payment to buy a real house. And a few months ago, we finally did it. We put an offer in on this place, and here we are. At the same time, the workshop rent here basically doubled overnight a few months back. I've also never had a kitchen here or Wi-Fi, so I spent a lot of time driving between here and home to get things done. So I think working entirely from home is going to be a lot more efficient. I also think I'm going to be able to ride my bikes a lot more now that they're at home, and I don't have to drive to them first to be able to ride them. When I moved in here, it was basically empty, and I've slowly filled it with more and more tools. And now, dare I say, my tool collection might rival my dad's, and we're just getting started. When I moved in here, I had a KTM 390 Duke and an old YZ250 2-stroke dirt bike, and I'm leaving here with 2.5 gorgeous big bikes. But anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Hopefully next week we can get back to normal videos. So I'll see you on the next ride from a new garage.